Welcome to the Startup Grind.
Thank you for having me. I am Aaron Watkins. I am the founder of Can It Be Automated? And this is me probably about when we met, right? And a lot less gray in my beard, right? I'm a bit of a serial entrepreneur. So my first startup was a marketing agency called Avency. We were essentially the first marketing agency dedicated to helping app developers. We did public relations, social media, a lot of like product consulting, advertising. A lot of fun until the app market got so crazy saturated that no apps were making money anymore, and then nobody had money to hire us anymore. Did some normal day job stuff, but couldn't get rid of the entrepreneurial bug. So I have to say that I have 2.5 startups. This is the half. Not all startups succeed. STEM Trunk was a subscription rental service for STEM, so science, technology, engineering, and math toys. We used to call it the Netflix of education. So as a parent, you'd want your kid to have that really cool robotic set, right? And that really cool robotic set's like $200. They played with it for a month. They got bored with it, and that's $200 gone. So we would basically send you the robotics kit. They'd play with it for a month. You'd send it back, and we'd send you the next one. Works good until kids start breaking things. Cost of shipping goes up, and then COVID hits. So yeah, STEM Trunk, no mas. Started Can It Be Automated in 2021. I had been working for John Deere on the side for a few years, so we were a 9-store dealership group, doing a lot of CRM work, basically trying to handle marketing for most of Northern California with a 2-person team. And we were like, you know what? We can't do this by ourselves. We don't have enough time. And started to learn CRM and automation tools. So our tool sets in sort of the automation space, right? And these aren't the only ones out there, right? So Zapier is a tool that I sort of become an expert at, but there are competitors. There's a company called Make, Padly. Basically, these are the duct tape of the internet, right? What they do is they work on connecting different third-party systems together so that those systems can pass data back and forth, and you can start to build automated workflows based on that. So you can say, hey, I'm going to connect my website. So the form tool on my website now connects to my QuickBooks, which also connects to the tool that I have that creates my invoice. And it's also going to send something to the person who has to respond to the inbound. And maybe it actually writes that email for them. And so you start to build these like processes, right, that can help pretty much any small business or even large businesses streamline a lot of that kind of busy work, right, that you're doing every single day, right? So much of our time during our workday is things that are repetitive, is things that are not skill-based, right? So things are like, hey, this new lead came in on my website, great. I'm going to take that information and I'm going to go and I'm going to tell Joe because Joe has to follow up with him. And oh, I got to put it in the system because we've got to make sure that we send them a thank you gift later. And oh, wait, now I'm going to go do, it's like, well, a good monkey could have done that, right? But a computer can do it in a few seconds. Yes.
Are you referring to essentially being a programmer, a person that's behind the scenes when you're doing these?
We call ourselves no-code programmers, right? So we're essentially developing program scripts without actually having the code, right? So it's a lot of like logic-based, almost like drag and drop, right? This, then this, and it's, I don't know if you ever remember, like, do you remember BASIC, the computer language? Okay, so if anyone who's old enough, like the first computer language we all learned, BASIC.
Yeah, I remember.
Right?
That.
If, then, go to, right? So same kind of thing. You're basically building a logic path that says, okay, we take the data, right? And we decide if it's this, we're going to go do this. Or if it's this, we're going to go do this, right? Or maybe we have to loop through it a few times because we have to like, oh, it's an invoice. And I have to do something for every line item on the invoice, right? Well, that means I've got to look at all that data.
I have a very narrow question.
Sure.
The question was really this. So you're a no-code programmer.
Yes.
Are you actually dealing with the data or are you setting up the systems and somebody else is putting in some data and it's going somewhere else?
typically we're setting up the system, right? So a lot of what we're doing is connecting data sources to like inputs to outputs, right? So an input might be your website, right? The source is people coming to
Contact
you
us.
asking, contact us, right? But then you have to put all that data somewhere. So that's where the CRMs come into effect, right? This is a CRM, customer relationship management. It's the place that I store all my people, right? And all my data. But once you have that, what are you going to do with it, right? Well, I have to set up an appointment, right, for this person to have a call intake, and that the information that I get from that has to be stored somewhere because, again, all businesses run on information, and any decently successful business has a lot of it, right?
Yeah, but I'm just thinking back to, because in law offices I worked in, you always opened a file.
Right. This is the files. This is the file these days. Yeah.
You didn't want everybody to know what was in one file. And it would be the same thing in a medical office. You wouldn't want everybody in the office to have access to every file.
Absolutely. And some of that, especially like the nice thing about the backend systems is that information can go the places that it needs to go without third-party extra eyes kind of seeing it, right? Depending on some of our clients are in the medical space, we have certain versions of software that are HIPAA compliant, right? So because there's special regulations, I have a couple law firm clients.
And the main problem is we don't want to be hacked.
Yeah.
Or somebody leaves the office and they take all the.
Yeah, and we were just having a conversation about passwords and password management. But yeah, so Zapier is essentially a fancy, and the reason Zapier became so successful is they're a fancy interface for something called webhooks, right? So webhooks are really how two online systems talk to each other, pass data back and forth. What they're doing is essentially, one system throws the ball, one system catches the ball, right? So we have various different systems, and all of these different systems essentially come with a set of instructions that says, this is how we like to throw the ball. And the other systems are like, oh, well, this is how we like to catch a ball. And once you start to be able to read and understand like API documents, right? Zapier is nice, but you don't need it anymore because really what Zapier is doing is it took the more technical part of webhooks and just made it like, oh, drag this here. Okay, next we're going to drag this here. What data do you want? Well, this data came in. Now I want it to go here. Done, right? It makes it nice and easy. But this is an AI talk, so one of our favorite tools, right, is OpenAI, and really sort of over the last year, having seen how far AI has come and the things that we can do with it, that allows us to take a lot of the things that we couldn't do before and start to add them into our automation processes. So prior to AI, most automation processes were very static, right? We're taking this piece of data and we're moving it through a system and we're getting it to a certain place or we're having a certain thing happen. But at the end, it's still the same piece of data that came in the beginning, right? And with AI, we can start to impart almost human-style logic or manipulation to data, where we can say, take this data and actually do something with it, right? Do something interesting with it, and then spit it out on the other end. And then lastly, we use high-level a lot. High-levels are kind of CRM of choice, and we use it because it is a sort of white-labeled CRM, which allows us to build things on top of it and then resell it as a company. So like we sell SIBA CRM, which is like our company's CRM, but really we didn't develop the base software. We put a bunch of stuff on top of it and do it that way. And we were invited here because we were lucky enough to win the Zapier AI Innovators of the Year award. And like you see, it's nice because you see that and you're like, wow, they must have done something crazy complicated with AI. And the reality is if you're a company and you're applying for an award, the company giving the award wants to make a spectacle of you, right? They want to use you to help their own PR. So like when you're wearing your arrow hat, right? And he's like, why did he remember you, right? He remembered you because you made a bit of a spectacle. Well, we decided to make a bit of a spectacle with AI. So if I look at myself and I make a Gantt chart, what are some things that I like? I like automation, right? I think we've established that. like artificial intelligence, having a lot of fun with ChatGPT and all of it. And by the way, if you use Excel at all, there's no one better at writing really crazy Excel-like formulas for you than ChatGPT is. And I love Christmas. Right? Who doesn't love Christmas? So what are the what was that? No. But see, so what are the overlaps here, right? So if we overlap automation and artificial intelligence, what do we get? We get an Alexa that talks to itself, right? If we overlap automation and Christmas, we get elves that are indentured servants, which they kind of are anyways, but... And finally, if we mix Christmas and artificial intelligence, we get robots that know when you've been sleeping and know when you're awake, and nobody wants that. But what if we could use automation and artificial intelligence to bring Christmas joy to kids everywhere? So I hope audio works, because what I'm going to show you is our award submission video, which is 3 minutes. That is me, actually. Remember when I said spectacle?
Hello there. My name is Nick, but my friends call me Santa Claus. And me and my elves are here to apply for the Zapier AI Innovator of the Year Award. Now, they've asked me, how does Zapier make me feel? And I have to admit, Zapier makes me feel like I should be on the naughty list. Kind of like that Wade Foster guy, but don't tell him I said that. Now, why the naughty list, you ask? Well, because it's just so easy. I feel like I'm slacking on the whole Santa gig, but let me explain. It all started with the pandemic. Ever since then, there's been fewer and fewer children believing in the magic of Christmas. For the last few years, children's letters to me are down almost 50%. So one day, my head elf comes to me and says, Santa, we have to do something. And we can't just wait for those children to write us. We have to write them. Well, that's all well and good, but there's only one of me and thousands of children around the world that could use a little Christmas magic. So we hired the Zapier experts at canitbeautomated.com to create a Zap with a little AI magic to help save Christmas. It all starts with a trip to visit realsanta.com, where parents can request a custom letter. At that point, they fill out a form that gives us all the information we need about their child, like little Mickey Noop here, whose favorite color is orange and whose favorite sport is Y Combinator? At that point, the Zap takes over, extracting all of the important information about the address and the street, and then creates a record in Zapier tables for the elves to review. At this point, ChatGPT takes over and creates the letter, taking all of the important information about the child and putting it into my voice. Once the letter's done, it goes into the table and the elves are able to read the letter and approve it before sending it out. What Mikey wants for Christmas is an AI bot that does his laundry for him. I think I can accomplish that. Once they approve it, it goes to Handywritten. And Handywritten is a great little tool that will actually take a robotic arm and handwrite the letter, put it in an envelope, and send it in the mail. And that's it. That's how Zapier saved Christmas. Me and my elves are here to apply for the Zapier AI Innovator of the Year. Now, they ask me, how does Zapier make me feel? I have to admit, Zapier makes me feel like I should be on the naughty list.
That's their CEO, Wade Foster.
Now, why the naughty list, you ask? Well, because it's just so easy. I feel like I'm slacking on the whole Santa gig. But let me
all started with the pandemic. Ever since then, there's been fewer and fewer children believing in the magic of Christmas. For the last few years, children's letters to me are down almost 50%. So one day, my head elf comes to me and says, Santa, we have to do something. And we can't just wait for those children to write us. We have to write them. Well, that's all well and good, but there's only one of me and thousands of children around the world that could use a little Christmas magic. So we hired the Zapier experts at CanItBeAutomated.com to create a magic to help save Christmas. It all starts with a trip to visit realsanta.com, where parents can request a custom letter. At that point, they fill out a form that gives us all the information we need about their child, like little Mickey here. His favorite color is orange.
There's CTO.
Sport is light comedy. At that point, the Zap takes over, extracting all of the important information about the address, street, and then creates a record in Zapier tables for the elves to review. At this point, ChatGPT takes over and creates the letter, taking all of the important information about the child and putting it into my voice. Once the letter's done, it goes into the table and the elves are able to read the letter and approve it before sending it out. What Mikey wants for Christmas is an AI bot that does his laundry for him. I think I can accomplish that. Once they approve it, it goes to handwriting. Handwriting is a great little tool that will actually take a robotic arm and handwrite the letter, put it in an envelope, and send it in the mail. That's it. That's how Zapier saved Christmas.
So there we go. So the system essentially that we built, right, was utilized AI to take the information that we had, right? We got parents to submit information about their child and turn that into a handwritten letter that they were delivered in the mail the month of December. And we did it again this year. So kind of looking at through like what this process looked like, right? So you have your source, right? People visit the Visit Real Santa site, and one of the things powering that is WooCommerce, right? So WooCommerce is their e-commerce platform, which takes the order and sends people a code that confirms the order itself. It's storing and getting those codes in Google Sheets, right? So we have a table of codes that we've pre-generated because we have to be able to identify that code with the next part of this, which is actually the data that comes back from the parent, right? So the parent gets this code and goes back to the website and fills out a form on the website, uses their code to sort of unlock it just to confirm to us that they've paid, and then answers all these questions about their child: favorite color, toys they wanted, accomplishments this year, what grade they're in. Excuse me. Of course, all of that information gets stored back in the database itself. Again, databases don't have to be complicated. Google Sheets is a database if you want it to be. Right? We then had to have a place for the actual Visit Real Santa team to manage this process, right? So in their CRM, so we built out a high-level instance for them. They essentially had a pipeline of new orders that came in, and then of course we wanted them to be able to actually read it and approve it before it went out to a child, because I trust ChatGPT, but not that much. So they had a notification system that would notify someone on the team that a new letter had been written, new order had come in. They would see it, review it, drag it to the next step in the pipeline, and that would set off the next part of the automation. So at that point, Zapier takes over, creates, so I actually did this backwards because Zapier went first and then it went to high level. Zapier wrote the letter first, sent it to high level so that people could read it, but Zapier sent it in to ChatGPT and OpenAI to actually have that natural language letter written. And the nice thing about this was, in many times when you're prompting AI, you have to tell it a voice, right? You have to sort of give it that background. Well, it figured out real quick who Santa was, right? And it didn't need a lot of prompting to kind of take over and write in a Santa style. And then went ahead and again, these don't have to be expensive, using a lot of free tools here. Created the initial documentation on Google Docs, also so that we can save a copy of this. And then finally sent that over to Handywritten, who we had pre-stationery for. So we actually bought a bunch of stationery, sent it to them. They'd load it into their system. And yeah, it's like a robotic arm that just sits there and handwrites each letter individually, puts it in envelopes and stickers. So the example of the prompt, so we had to constrain it a little bit just because of the amount of text that we had available to us from the Handywritten system. And then what we would do is we would go through and we're essentially they're mapping the inputs that are coming from Jotform. And so this is the exact interface. And so we're in the prompt all the various different bits of information. We're telling it how to end. This double @ here is actually for us to be able to process it later. So it's essentially a symbol that never happens in reality, which allows us to then quickly use another tool and say, okay, stop everything at the double @ clear that out, and put the signature at the bottom. And there you go. There's an example of a AI written letter from Santa to a child named Kennedy, who is favorite color is yellow, likes jumping, plays video games, plays Roblox. I think it's supposed to be Roblox. Yeah. And so, yeah, the company has gone on and this year they added video as well. So we have another version of this where if you go in and you buy the video instead, it actually writes a script for Santa to read. Santa himself is not AI yet. They do actually have a guy in a Santa suit who sits there and records videos, but he records them off of a teleprompter that is powered by. You could, but
It doesn't look right.
No,
Did you try doing it? I think
we
it's
played around with it a little bit.
dash ID or something.
Yeah, we played around with it a little bit.
Next year.
Yeah,
probably.
it gets better every year, right? Yeah, so. And that's it, right?
So is this your company or is this a client?
This is a client, right?
Okay.
So we as a company, they come to us and say, we have this idea, right? Can you figure out how to make this happen? So as a company, we do a lot of workflow development. We'll consult with a company and just be like, tell me what you do all day, right? And we'll come back and tell you how much of that you don't have to be doing, right? We set up custom CRM systems for companies that, some of the companies we're working with, we're still doing paper records, right? And, there's definite concerns about paper records for buyers and other things. And, and just simply being able to access and use that data, right? And, one of our big goals is, we eliminate busy work, but we also try to find as many ways to make good use of the data that you as a company have.
In this flow you just showed us, did somewhere the parent put in a credit card and some other?
That WooCommerce step in the beginning is the order, right? So
there was a way to protect that?
So WooCommerce is one of the bigger e-commerce powered platforms that probably powers a good 60% of the websites that you spend money on. Yeah. So it's a plugin that works with WordPress, and most websites online are WordPress sites. That is credit card processing and order management, and yeah.
And basically, this is a software program you made for that client.
It's a software, yeah, and that's kind of why we say it's like no-code programming, because really it's a script. It's a series of commands moving data from different softwares to each other, right? Because what's really happening is it's not just that ChatGPT did this, right? But ChatGPT had to get its data from somewhere, and for it to get its data from somewhere, it had to have a financial transaction had to happen, and after the transaction had to happen, in order for the form that the parents filled out for us to know that that transaction had happened, right, we had to have the code that they essentially bought, right? And so each of these things are all happening in these separate systems, which you could absolutely do without connecting them, right? You could get your order on your website,
And then you had
and someone could take that
in.
information and go plug it into ChatGPT and be like, write me a letter.
The handwritten step too.
Right.
Step, yeah.
That I think is my favorite part, right? So the handwritten thing at the end, we stumbled across this company that mostly does real estate stuff, right? I don't know if you ever get like handwritten, like, we want to try to sell your house, right? And they didn't handwrite that. Yeah, and so but yeah, they have different handwritings you can choose from, right? Like different styles. You can send them custom stationery. You can tell them what ink color you want them to use. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So you're making me kind of sad here, because I think what I just learned is all those times I couldn't log in ChatGPT, it was Santa's fault.
It was, yeah. But think of how important that was. You were sacrificing for a better cause.
Or you should get the paid version. You should most of the time get in.
Yeah.
No, it's free, like you said, it's free tools, man, free tools.
Yeah. Speaking of free, if you are a business owner or even someone in a business who thinks that some of the things that you're doing potentially could be automated, we do free consultations. And if you do want to scan our QR code, that will just take you to our little calendar form to schedule an appointment. So, questions?
What's the business model?
What is our business model?
Yeah. Do you
Part-
charge like?
So yeah, a couple different ones. When we do CRM development, we're white labeling a platform, which I pay one licensing fee and then can sell that as many times as I want to customers. So all of my clients who are on our CRM are paying us a monthly fee. And so for as long as they're in place, we typically charge a setup cost because a lot of them are like very custom to their business, right? So we charge them for the development of the customization and then an ongoing residual of a monthly fee there. A lot of our clients who are not doing a CRM but are just doing Zapier, we actually resell Zapier as well. So as a company that does a lot of Zapier, we have a very large account, but we have a Teams account, which allows us to set up alternate logins and isolate sections of it. So instead of my client being like, oh, I've got to like buy a Zapier account for this one Zap that I want to do. I'm like, no, we'll save you 15%. You buy it from us. We'll section off a little section of our account. And now they're paying us monthly for that. And then the rest of it is just simply like the cost of developing. We charge hourly. Yes.
So you said they pay you a monthly subscription that you use the process.
Yes.
Okay, so the business develops and there's a new component or something they want to add, then you can just kind of like plug and play a new aspect into that system you've already created, kind of develops for them?
Yeah. So, again, clients have access to all of these systems also, right? So, they have access to the Zapier account. They have access to the CRM tool itself actually has an automation platform built into it. And so we try to make sure that our clients are comfortable enough to be like, hey, you just want to go in and change the wording on that email or, add a little thing, they can. But I also tell my customers, you do what you're good at and we'll do what we're good at, right? You don't want to be in there messing with the automation. We do. That's what we did, right? We built it. We know how it worked. And so, yeah, typically with clients, if they're like, can you please help me tweak this one little thing? We're not going to charge them for that, right? If they're like, we need a new workflow that also does this, we'll scope it out. And, one of the nice things about selling them and managing their Zapier account for them is once they've sort of locked into that, they're kind of locked into us, right? And so when they need more automation help in the future, they just inevitably come back to us. And
Cool.
yes.
From clients, I hear about Go High Level. Did they drop the Go, by the way?
No, Go High Level is the URL because highlevel.com was taken.
Okay.
High Level and Go High Level are the same thing.
Was there something about that made you go with them? Was it the automation built in or was there something more?
So I've used lots of CRMs. I was HubSpot certified. I've worked with Salesforce. And so I've seen a lot of CRMs over the years. The nice thing that I liked about High Level is one, I can white label it, right? So a lot of my business model is based on reselling that, right? If I go to HubSpot, they're going to charge me X amount for every single instance
Mhm.
of HubSpot, right? So if I set up for 10 clients, those clients are paying HubSpot. They're not paying me, right? With high level, I'm paying high level one agency fee, but I can turn around and sell that as many times as I want,
Okay.
right? Also, as a company, and again, I've been around a lot of software, a lot of years. I've never seen a software company move as fast as high level does in terms of like the amount of features that they add. Sometimes too fast, right? Sometimes they'll be like, boom, we're doing voice AI, and you're like, doesn't quite work like you said it would, but most of that bleeding edge stuff we typically do a decent amount of testing with before we're like, okay, this part is ready to actually offer to a customer or not. But yeah, it also does because it has a really good workflow builder inside of it. Again, HubSpot does too, right? Like HubSpot has a workflow builder, but like HubSpot's really bad at SMS for some strange reason, or wants to charge you extra to do outbound webhooks. I'm like, these are base functions, right? That's all built into high level system. And so again, it just makes it really easier for me. Like some of my clients are even like, you don't actually need Zapier anymore. Like we actually rebuilt everything in the high level and you're already paying for this, right? And so we've saved you some money. A lot of what we're trying to do with customers is eventually saving them money, right? We're taking like, if you're using 10 different tools, right? And you're paying 10 different SaaS subscription fees for those, oftentimes with one instance of high level and maybe a couple connections with Zapier, I can eliminate half of them. So even though you're paying me, $300 a month for your CRM, you eliminated $400 a month worth of other software subscriptions.
Right.
Yeah.
Take us through this client case. They come to you saying, hey, we've got this idea, we want to do X, Y, and Z. Is that something that takes your creative team like days, weeks, months?
There's only two of us, so yeah, my creative team is kind of me. It doesn't take
Like I know exactly how to do that versus we're
a lot of it we do, right?
Set a tool for this one thing, and maybe you have to really search for that or create a piece that gives you the whole.
So a lot of the concepting part happens pretty fast. We're like, well, okay, what if we could have a tool that does this, a tool that does this, tool that does this, right? And oftentimes it's like we know, oh yeah, I've worked, we've done this long enough that there's a lot of tools that we've worked with. We know all the things that they can do. But then sometimes the stuff comes up with like, oh, well, you also want to do this thing.
Like the handwriting.
Like the handwriting thing, right? And sometimes they'll be like, okay, we got to do some research, right? We got to see if we can find a tool that can do this. And we can't just find a tool that can do it. We have to find a tool that we can talk to, right? Because that whole thing of either Zapier or webhooks, right? That duct tape on the internet is you have to be able to throw the ball for me to catch it, right? If you can't throw the ball, and a lot of systems are closed, right? They're like, I've got this cool tool, but I'm not sending information outside of my system. I can't talk to you. We have ways of getting your information anyways. No, a lot of closed systems still will do things like, we'll automatically send an email notification when this thing happens, right? We can read the email that came through, right? So instead of grabbing the information from your system, we're going to grab the information from your inbox, right? We're going to parse your email. We're going to pull the information out of it because that email where they send you the lead or whatever, right? It's formatted the exact same way every time. So I tell a system and I say, after the word first name : grab me the rest of that line and store it in the first name field, right? After the next line break, that's where they write the phone number. Grab that information and store it in the phone number field, right? So there's tricks and ways around some of these things where if we are looking at closed systems, but actually part of the fun of the job is that new client comes in and is like, I got this idea. And we're like, ooh, cool, let's figure out how to make this work, right? One of the things I liked about this is the funnest project we've ever worked on, right? It wasn't a ton of money, but it was a lot of fun. Dressing up as Santa in front of the green screen was a lot of fun. Again, this wasn't the most complicated thing AI's ever done. We won the award because we dressed up as Santa and told this company that their software saved Christmas, right? How could we not? Yeah.
Also, it's simple enough of an idea that it's everyone wants to participate in it.
Yeah, it's very easy to grasp, and again, they used it for PR and all this stuff, and And they gave us $5,000 for it, so that's nice.
Get a prize or a trophy?
Got $5,000 and this like clear orange brick with like AI innovative. I should have brought it. I didn't think about that. And some swag, a sweatshirt and a water bottle. Yeah. So,
We get invited to the Zapier parties.
well, Zapier's a 100% remote company also. So I don't know Zapier parties. Well, or
You do.
they did have, they must do this for their own team. They're like, a lot of remote companies do like team building online stuff now. So all of the winners of the Zapier award, we all did this chocolate painting thing where they sent us all of these like chocolate bonbon kits and these little paints that like, and the paints were essentially chocolate like sand, which you had to put in the microwave to melt, and then you'd use it to paint. And then they had like a chocolate expert like telling us about all the different aspects of
Was
the
that done
chocolate.
virtually or?
Well, like they sent us in the mail the chocolate, but then the virtual meeting was with the expert and yeah. Kinda cool.
You didn't eat?
We eventually, you know.
Okay.
Have you looked at the make.com?
I've looked at Make, and Make is very similar to Zapier. It's one of those things where it's like Verizon, AT&T, right? Like you get really good at one, and it's like I can use Make, but I'm so good at Zapier and I'm so used to it, and I know all the nuances of it that unless a client's like, well, we already have a Make account and we're already doing this, right?
But you don't see a difference one way or the other?
Not really. They do very similar things. In fact, we also use a tool called Pabbly, which again is another the same kind of tool. It's much harder to use, but it's also cheap, right? So like I have a account that is, so these accounts, most of these automation tools charge you by the number of tasks you're using, right? And so every step in a process is a task. So it's like if you're seeing like a line of like 10 different things, right, that's using 10 different tasks. Now, some tools will say we have internal tasks, and so a lot of that don't cost. So a lot of like math function, formatter, path, loop, like things that are very foundational, right? They don't charge you for that. And actually Zapier used to, and they finally stopped, which thank you. But Pabbly was like lifetime deal. It was like $1,000. I get like 10,000 tasks a month. And I think I pay Zapier probably close to $500 a month for our Zapier account. And I mean, we have a lot of tasks there too. But again, Pabbly is much harder to use and is, you know, you need to be a little closer to a programmer to use Pabbly well. While Zapier is just super simple drag and drop. There's nobody in this room that couldn't easily go into Zapier and start to build workflows.
Yeah, make that come in the, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, and again, and I encourage you too, right? Like it's fun. Like get in there, start to be like, if you use a spreadsheet for anything in your work, right? I can tell you there's something that could be automated.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have to get data into and out of that spreadsheet, right? So learning how to do that is going to help your work a lot. And again, you know, if you're like, I love it, I love the idea, I love the concept, but I don't want to do it, drop me a line.
Any other questions?
So Aaron, what I'm getting is that you are making the project for that client. And if they want to use whatever the software is under it, they can get it from you by keeping you on a monthly subscription?
So, yeah. So for example, most of the time it's like they're asking us to connect 5 different tools they're already paying for, right? Some of them will come to us and be like, I have a Zapier account. I don't quite know how to use it. Can you just do it for us?
Okay.
Like, great. You already have it. If you've got a bunch of other stuff that you're already using it for, I'm not going to try to put you on mine, right? If they're like, I bought it just for this thing and now I don't know how to use it, I'll be like, cancel it, just use ours. And instead of paying Zapier monthly, pay me monthly.
You get it cheaper.
Right. You save money and I make not much, right? But it's helping me cover the cost of my Zapier account.
Let me give you the second part of the question,
Okay.
which was this. So that's if they want to have a continuing relationship with you. What if it's really just to get this thing done, because Christmas only once here, right? And not see you again until we need you again. So
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
want to keep paying you every month. So do they own the software that you made for them?
Yes. Yeah, so if they have their own Zapier account, right, I go build a workflow on their account, I'm done.
Okay, because that was something
Right.
that came up in your experiences, right? That you made an app or something and then you know it. I remember you were sharing about in your prior work, your history that there was.
I
an
mean,
app and
what
it was
tends to
something
happen
about-
is, because I have many clients who come to me and they just do project work, right? They'll have a project and they'll be done for 2 months. And then be like, we have another idea. Aaron, can you build this? Yes, we build it for them. And they're gone for 2 months, right? And they have their own Zapier account. So they're not paying me a monthly anything. I just charge them, they'll also come to me if something breaks or whatever. And I'm like, well, I'm not on retainer, so I have to charge you for the support, right? Because I didn't break it,
Right.
you broke it. You have to pay me to fix it. And then for stuff like, the custom CRM, which is a much bigger project, they don't own that software.
Oh,
In fact, we don't even own that software. Like we have, think of it like websites, right? People build websites on WordPress.
Okay.
None of us own WordPress. We wish we owned WordPress. None of us own WordPress, the tool that was used to build it.
okay.
And that website's not going to run without WordPress. But nobody, not the person who owns the website, not the person who built the website, owns the tool that was used to make it.
Okay. I was asking about the ownership question because I remember you explained this once, that there was a company, another company wanted to buy your company. You guys had made something, but you didn't own the software.
Oh, yeah, so we built,
And let me follow up. The reason I was asking was this, you guys were just talking about in English, the Santa letter. How many other languages can you do that in? And if I just got you to do the project once, now I come up with the idea of using what is it, ChatGPT or something, Spanish, French, and so now I'm just using what you made for me once, and I'm
You do it in
Blowing
all
it up.
languages for 50 holidays a month, right? There are many holidays every single month. You just change
Easter bunny.
the whole thing. Anything else?
Yeah, and and honestly, I'm okay with that,
And that's
right?
why I would want to buy it outright as opposed to keep having to pay him every month.
Yeah.
And then maybe Google or somewhere to come up to me and say, hey, Mr. Singh, I want to buy your company or your business or something. And you had that problem that,
no, it wasn't, it was,
You know?
we built I basically used a no-code platform to build apps. And then we got acquired but we were transparent, we used this platform and they just got an account on that platform and we transfer all the apps to them, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times when you sell a company, you're selling expertise, reputation, right? You may not necessarily be selling all of the baseline things used to, because all companies all use third-party tools, right? And we are just like, again, those processes that we've built, right? They might break, they might need adjustment, right? They typically want our expertise somewhere nearby if they're building a 50 holiday, 10 language company, right? They want people who know how that system was made and running.
And what happens when webbook changes?
Yeah.
You have to go in there and change and update that webbook for every person who used it prior. Yeah, no, I do the same thing, yeah.
Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, what markets are you seeing interested in?
A lot of small business service companies. So we're starting to get really into like voice AI and you got all these guys who are like plumbers, electricians, carpenters, event cleaning, who are like, I'm out there doing work all day. I don't want to answer the phone. I don't want to deal with billing. I don't want to ask for your Google review, right? And so for them, automated CRMs are great, right? We take your lead, we answer your phone, we text you back if you can't answer the phone, we make sure billing happens, let you do your work, right? And one of our goals this year is to productize some of those systems that we've already built. So if we have a client that we're working with, he's a dryer vent cleaning business, and we built 30 or 40 different processes, all based around high level We've customized the dashboard. We've made it pretty. We've got maps that tell him where all of his technicians are that day. We can tell him what his plan is for tomorrow. We can send a text message to his technician in the morning that tells him the best, most optimized route for him to take between different clients that day. And we're like, okay, we built this system for you. I'm now partnering with him and saying, great, you're the face. You're the guy who's had a cleaning business for 50 years. You're going to take 20% of the revenue. We're going to take the rest. And we're going to turn this into something that we can sell to dryer vent cleaning businesses across the country. And so a lot of what we're doing is looking for, some of these systems that we've built, identifying which ones are like, that one seems like it's productizable, has a good market, the market's willing to pay, so.
Smart. All right, so thank you.